So you just unlocked Queen's Blood, but you're not too comfy with the game yet. Well, have I got good news for you, because I will be sharing all my tips and tricks I learned after 140 hours of playing the game to help you dominate in every match with this beginner guide. So with that out the way, let's get into this, yeah? Before we go over how to play, let's do a quick refresher on the tutorial, since some of you like to skip them. Every card has a cost to play, which is indicated on the top left. They look like pawns from chess, and the highest cost card is 3. On the right hand side is a number. This is the power of the card and how many points you'll get when playing it. On the actual cards themselves, we have a white tile. This is where the card will be placed. Yellow tiles indicate which panel the card will capture when it spawns. If a card has red tiles, then this will either buff or nerf that panel by either increasing or decreasing its power. Later in the game, you'll unlock cards with a down arrow on the top left. These can only be played on an already existing card on the battlefield. Now that we covered the basics, let's go over my strategy I use to beat every opponent in the game. That's right, I hardly changed my starter deck because if you follow the fundamentals I'll go over, you'll look like a pro in no time. For anyone with card game experience, this is the swarm strategy. And for those of you who are new, it's where you want to swarm the board and overwhelm your opponent with tiny creatures, or in this case, low value cards. I found this strategy to be very effective because the board is 3x5, which means the developer wanted both sides to control a 2x2 and fight over the middle. But I ignored that and I rushed down my opponent. And with that out the way, let's go over a game play by play so you understand my thought process. The game starts at the mulligan phase. I highly recommend you get rid of 2-cost cards because you first need to develop the board before you can play them. I kept the sweeper card because my 2 1-cost cards will establish the board so I could summon it on turn 2. Levricon is placed on the top row because it'll capture the bottom and right panel when played. Always try and get the full value from your cards when you're playing in the early stages. If I placed her on the bottom row, then I would only capture the right panel. If played in the center, then it would have been okay, but we want the sweeper to go there next turn. Sweeper was my initial play and we didn't draw anything to change my mind, so we'll establish power by playing them while advancing on the board. Just like Levricon, the Grassland Wolf is placed on the bottom row for full value. I'm gonna play the Security Officer on the bottom row because my opponent doesn't have a panel next to it to punish me by recapturing it, and it gets us 2 more panels on the board. Ooh, they have a card that recaptures that, but it's okay because we have a dominating position. I decided to play Alpha Dunk in the top row to set up my move for the next turn. I didn't play him on the bottom row because it's very unlikely the opponent can capture that panel. Very interesting that my opponent has a card with such a range to get my top row from the bottom row, and a whole column away? But my move gets even more value as it recaptures that panel while buffing the wolf. Right here, my opponent uses a replace card, which we unfortunately won't acquire until way later in the game. It's okay though because we have a second Alpha Dunk to get us right back on the board. And just like that, my opponent has no more cards to play, so they skip their turns. That's what you want to accomplish every match to dominate. From here, I'm trying to get the highest value cards to wrap up the game. Hopefully you feel more confident now going in there and beating up those Queen Blood NPCs, and if you have any unanswered questions, then ask down below. And if you feel like these minigames will set you back in your progress, then consider checking out my spoiler-free AP farming spot video right here. Until the next video, I'll see ya.